and later he gets punished severely for that. But Draupadi and Subhadra are distraught over this, and they're in the tent where the boys were killed. And Krishna comes in, and the first thing he says to them is, "Don't lament." It's like, whoa, that's heavy. But it's actually, in a certain way, it's like relieving when you, because the Lord's, his teachings are always uplifting and lightening and pleasing. So it's like you hear that and you're like, it hits your ego actually, but another part of you feels like emboldened and empowered and strengthened by that. Okay, so then the soul, verse 29. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidinam Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanya Ascharyavaschainam anya shrinoti Shrutvapyenam vedana chaiva kaschit Dehi nityam avadhyoyam Dehe sarvasya bharata Tasmat sarvani bhutani Natvang shochitum arhasi Swadharmam api chaveksha Navikampitum arhasi Dharmyadhi yuddhat shreyonyat Kshatriyasya navidyate. Okay, so Ascharyavat means astonishing, yes. Ascharyavat pashyati. Pashyati means to see. Some see the soul as astonishing. Some describe it. Vadati means they speak about it as astonishing. Ascharyavat chainam. Some hear of it. Shrinoti means to hear. Some hear of it as astonishing, while others, although hearing about it, know nothing of it. It's amazing. Like some people are like, wow, the soul, how amazing. And other people, you tell them about the soul and they're like, a soul? No idea. They don't even know it exists. They know nothing of it. O Bharata, the soul dwelling within the bodies of all living beings is eternal and cannot be slain. Therefore you need lament for no one. The soul is fine. So what are you lamenting about? Generally, it's a heavy thing to say. But generally, if we look inside of ourselves, is that we lost something that we consider a possession of ours. Something that's very important to us. That's what we're lamenting about. But that soul is fine, Krishna's saying. The soul dwelling within the bodies of all living beings is eternal, cannot be slain. You don't need to lament for anyone. Moreover, considering your natural duty, you have no reason to waver, since there is no action more auspicious for a warrior than a battle for justice. Okay. Verse 32. Yadrichchaya chopapannam svargadvaram apavritam sukhina kshatriya partha labhante yuddham idrisham. Gurmaharaj really liked that phrasing that Krishna uses here, Sukhina Kshatriya Partha. There's a few different lectures where you can hear him saying that. And he's saying it in reference to our own life, how we have to have this same kind of mood. Okay. Oh, there's a commentary on verse 31. Okay, commentary. One's natural duty of swadharma or swadharma is of two types, relative or absolute, according to the soul's state of either material bondage or liberation, respectively. In the liberated state, the natural function of the soul is purely spiritual devotional service, for the transcendental pleasure of the Supreme Lord alone. But in the state of material bondage, a person's natural duty possesses mundane attributes. The conditioned soul accepts various births throughout the 8,400,000 species of life according to his actions, until by influence of piety he obtains a human birth. Then, according to his nature, he may adopt a position and prescribe duty in the God-centered socio-religious system, Daiva Varnashram, which helps one attain the natural duty of the liberated state. In this respect, the natural duty of the liberated soul is somewhat covered by the relativity of the material world. Yet within the God-centered socio-religious system, it is nonetheless considered a person's natural duty, as for example, smoke-covered fire is still considered fire, despite its covering. Everyone understand that? It's a little bit of a subtle point here. Does it need to be closer? Sorry.
Yeah, because your voice is so soft.
Sorry. Okay, does everyone get that purport? Should we talk about it a tiny bit?
So
Okay.
The
Swadharma.
senses in mind covering what we really essentially are.
Okay, so generally in the Vaishnava literature, when we see the word swadharma, it means the soul's natural occupation within the service of the Lord. And in this sense, Krishna is telling Arjuna, your swadharma is to be a kshatriya, which in general sense is considered to be a relative duty, not the essential foundational duty of the soul. So the purport is explaining that generally there is two classifications. There's a relative state and a liberated state. But it's saying something very important in the last paragraph, which is even in the relative state, there is some natural duty that you have to fulfill even within this relative state. And that duty is also coming from the Lord. It may be covered by all of our own egotistic coverings, but at the same time, we exist for a reason. So even underneath that relative state of dharma, of what we have to do within this world, is the will of the Lord, is the service of the Lord. So it's a very fine point, that it's not necessarily our eternal swadharma, but at the same time, we exist in this world for a reason, and we have to perform that reason for the Lord. It's not meaningless. Right. So saying, yeah, there might be a lot of smoke, but there's still a fire at the very basis of that. That same fire that's in the, the spiritual world, right? So.
The sentence, but in the state of material bondage, a person's natural duty possesses money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially in that case, also he
What's
says
an
it's
example?
dishonor, great dishonor.
Like what's
For
an
the
example?
kshatriya to abandon it.
Yeah.
It's like really hellish situation.
What's an example?
So in the state of material bondage, a person's natural duty possesses mundane attributes. It means we're in a mundane phase of existence, you might say. So the thing that we have to do within this world has to do with this world. So those are the mundane attributes. Mundane attributes means attributes which are temporary, attributes which have no permanence. Like Krishna earlier in the chapter says, Sat. Distinguish between Sat and Asat. Sat means that which is permanent. Asat means that which is flickering. So anything that's flickering is mundane, means it doesn't exist forever. So your attributes that are in this world, while you're in this world that doesn't exist forever, and you don't exist forever, the attributes that you have and the attributes of the duty in this world are all temporary, and they're all mundane in that sense, and the fact that they're flickering. That's not talking about your paternal posture of your soul. So that's what that means. Now, in the deeper sense, again, that's what this last paragraph is pointing out. In the deeper sense, even the flickering mundane has its root in Krishna. And that's a very deep conception that Krishna gets to later in chapter 7, I believe, where he says, everything is strung on me like pearls on a string. Right? At the basis of all matter is Brahman. The energy that's even powering matter is divine. There's nothing that can exist without divine sanction and divine energy, right? In the end.
So all this you fulfilling as your dharma,
That's it. Right? And so the Vedic system is attempting to help people understand that. So they have a socio-religious economic system that's God-centered. Everyone has some contribution to make for God. So that's an ideal system. Now, of course, it always can be corrupted by the hearts of men, right? And everything is corrupted. And you can see how in India, even though they maintained those class systems, they became completely materialistic and based on material things like hereditary qualifications and all these kinds of things, right? Everything gets corrupted in the end. And Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna, came and said, Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi, Shudra Kenina. It doesn't matter if you're a Brahmin. It doesn't matter if you're a sannyasi. It doesn't matter if you're a Shudra. What matters is you're serving Krishna. Because they kept the social-religious economic system and they forgot the God-centered part. And when Krishna and Mahaprabhu was coming and saying, like, no, actually the only thing that matters is the God-centered part of it.
It's no consideration for good or wrong or right, completely out of the equation. You cannot think in those terms, really.
That's a much deeper point, but it's actually true. Yeah, I was watching this video of Srila Prabhupada. Really beautiful video. Oh my God, it's so merciful. On YouTube, I was watching this video, and he says, Krishna, he's talking about another verse in the Gita where Krishna's saying, I'm the taste of water. But then Prabhupada's saying, actually what he's saying is, I'm whatever the taste of a liquid is, because rasa means liquid, so Prabhupada's saying that. And then he says, even if a drunkard is addicted to liquor and he's drinking liquor and he thinks, oh, Krishna is the taste of this liquor, he said, that person will become saintly very quickly. Wow. Prabhupada says this. And he said, and in this society I am seeing there's so many drunkards. And then he goes, there is no scarcity. And then all the devotees laugh. And then he goes, but these drunkards, if they think, oh, Krishna, you are the taste of this liquor, then very quickly they will become saintly and worshipable people. That was like so merciful. But that's the vision of a devotee. And then he says right after that, he goes, actually, there is no wrong, actually. The only thing there is a lack of Krishna consciousness. And that makes whatever it is wrong, right? So.
Even as a side point, talking about, like for example, liquid like vodka in Poland is called spirit.
Yeah.
just a chance.
Well, man, maybe we're doing this all wrong. Where's the vodka?
It's called spirit.
Okay.
Prabhu, may I say something?
Yeah.
Since
Okay, so now then we'll read the translation to 32, which we just read the Sanskrit to. Sukhina Kshatriya Partha. O Partha, only the most fortunate warriors are blessed with the opportunity of such a battle, which has come to you like an open door to heaven. Apavritam Svargadvaram. So, and Guru Maharaj, when he's talking about difficulties in life, there's this amazing, like the first chapter of Loving Search for the Lost Servant is so amazing. But Guru Maharaj, he goes through this amazing like summary of Rupa Goswami, and then he says, this summary of what Mahaprabhu's come to give. He gives this amazing translation of the Chaito Darpana Marjanam verse. And he's saying what Mahaprabhu is saying in communion with the holy name, that the victory of the holy name is that the soul is in a state where there's fresh, infinite joy that has never before been tasted at every second. And then he says, so when you come across such an ideal of life like this, all the problems in life, they're small. They're just little small victories and defeats because you've come into such an incredible prospect of your soul. And then he said, actually, Sukhina Kshatriya Partha. Not only are they little, you should joyfully face them because of what Krishna says to Arjuna. Actually, you think this thing is bad, but what it is it come and opened a door to heaven to you. So you have to start to see the difficulties in your life in a completely different way. Not just that, oh no, this thing has come to me, but Sukhina, you're a happy warrior. This is actually what I need. This is actually what I want. This is the progress that I'm seeking. And be filled with joy when these types of difficulties come, because this is your way to heaven. This is your way, not just to heaven, but for a devotee, to the plane of relationship with Krishna. So like total reset of like how you view difficulties in life from something that is to be avoided, from something that is joyful and is giving you your opportunity for progression, which you seek. So
That's a beautiful point.
it's a truly amazing total reset of life. Sukhina Kshatriya Partha. It's like you should be a happy warrior facing this battle.
So just the duality of the world makes that horrible. Just the duality.
But the duality
Good
ultimately
and bad.
lives inside of us,
Just, yeah,
right?
totally useless, substanceless, no substance.
Yeah, and coming up in the Gita, coming up in the Gita, Krishna is going to talk about this raga dvesha, right? This I like it, I don't like it, as being
Constant.
the core fundamental issue within our consciousness, that almost AI judgment that we're making on things that's unreliable, and it's kind of like this core thing we have to start to notice within ourselves.
Great obstacle.
Okay, so that was 32. So, very, very beautiful shlokas, and we'll read 33, 34, 35, and 36. And Che, we just read 32. And we were talking about one of these key concepts, Sukhina Kshatriya Partha, which is like something that our teachers have said, you have to start to bring into your life. That any difficulty that comes, Sukhina means happiness. Any difficulty that comes to you, you have to start to see in a joyful way as it contains the progression that you're seeking. So it's like this incredibly hopeful way of starting to see life. That, obstacles are almost met with happiness, with joy. And it's a high bar, but it's also a really nice thing to even contemplate while you're in the midst of whatever your obstacle is. It's like,
Lifts you up instant.
could this possibly contain my progression? Nah. Okay, 33, 34, 35, 36. Attache tvam imam dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi tata swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi akirtim chapi bhutani tatayishyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya cha kirtir Maranadatirichyate bhayad ranad uparatam mangsyante tvam maharatha yesham cha tvang bahumato bhutva yasyasi laghavam avachya vadangscha bahun vadishyanti tavahita nindantastava samarthyam tato dukkhataram nukim. All right, do you want to read?
Could I get the microphone? But if you choose not to fight this battle for justice, your religious principles will be lost. Fame will desert you and sin will overcome you. People will speak of your infamy for all time to come, and for the renowned infamy is worse than death. The great warriors who highly honor you will ridicule you, considering that you were afraid to fight. Your enemies will mock you. What could be more painful?
Okay, let's keep moving on here. Hatova prapsyasi swargam jitva va bhokshase mahim tasmad uttishta kaunteya yuddhaya kritanishchayah sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labhao jaya jayao tato yuddhaya yujyasva naivam papam avapsyasi ishate bhihita sankhye buddhid yoge tvimam shrinu buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. Shay, would you like to read? 37.
O son of Kunti, if you are killed, you will attain heaven, and if you are victorious, you will enjoy your life on earth. Therefore, being confident of your success, arise for battle. Considering pleasure and pain, gain and loss, and victory and defeat to be one and the same, the fight. No sin will be incurred by you.
So 39.
I have revealed to you this knowledge, Buddhi of the soul. Now hear from me how to act in this knowledge, Bhakti Yoga, through which you will be able to free yourself from the bondage of action.
And you can read the commentary also.
It will be revealed that Buddhi Yoga, yoga of wisdom, is a singular path. When Buddhi Yoga is seen to be limited by the ideal of action, it is known as Karma Yoga. When it extends beyond action up to the peak of knowledge, it is known as Jnana Yoga or Sankhya Yoga. And when transcending the limitations of both actions and knowledge, it touches bhakti or devotion. It is then known as Bhakti Yoga or perfectly pure and complete Buddhi Yoga.
Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Okay. So in 38, Krishna is starting to get to this very fundamental posture toward existence that is gone into in chapter 3 extensively, which is Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga means you have to start. Jagaranga Dhanavad. We have to start to live completely participating and okay with any outcome. So Krishna is saying, in this sense, in this circumstance, fight. Consider pleasure and pain to be the same, gain and loss to be the same, victory and defeat to be the same. So whatever the outcome is, what has come to you, fully give yourself to it and be okay with any outcome. And that way, you're not acting with karma. Because as Krishna is about to explain, karma is not caused by the action. Remember, everything's consciousness. Karma is caused by the intention. So when your intention is not demanding of anything, then you're just giving your energy. You're giving whatever it is that you have without a demand in return. So it has no impurity. that action. The impurity is in consciousness. So this is a key principle.
Can you say that again? If you can.
Karma is not caused by an action. It's caused by the intention behind an action. So we're talking about a yogic, ultimately a conscious yogic posture toward the actions that you're doing in your life. Try to make them an offering, a sacrifice, a giving without any demand. Give yourself completely to it. Do your very best, but consider pleasure and pain to be the same. Gain and loss to be the same. Victory and defeat to be the same. Now you're rising above. You're becoming someone who's contributing to a greater flow, but without any demand upon that. Very high bar, okay? This is like the very beginning of the Gita. It's just like, start to act without attachment. That's like the concept. Act without attachment. And it's kind of like, for most of us, we're like, actually, attachment is the only reason I act. It's like, what are you talking about? But some to start to build a little temple around. Very high ideal of life. So then Krishna in the next says, I've revealed this buddhi to you. Buddhi, we've all heard of Buddha. Okay, buddhi is the root of Buddha. Buddhi means wisdom or enlightenment. And Buddha is someone who is wise or enlightened. So Krishna is saying, I've given this idea to you. I just gave you something that's really foundational. This is buddhi. Now, how do you act like that? How do you really do that? How do you really actually start to act when considering victory and defeat the same? Nobody wants defeat, everyone wants victory. Considering gain and loss to be the same. Nobody wants loss, everyone wants gain. Considering pain and pleasure to be the same. Nobody wants pain, everyone wants pleasure. What does that even mean? How do you act like that? And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the commentary says something really important, which is there's a continuum of progression on the spiritual path, and that's called Buddhi Yoga. So any progression on the spiritual path is progression on the path of wisdom, on the path of enlightenment. And that's why a mature devotee is always seeing anyone in a very hopeful way. There's no kind of sectarian idea of anyone. Where it's just like, oh, you're not doing the thing that is in this building or whatever. It's not like that at all. Because that devotee can see, oh, this person is on a stage in the path of Buddhi Yoga. Right? And you can see where the progression is, and you can see the goodness of that. So there's always progression to be made, and any real practice is on the path of Buddhi Yoga. And so everything should be seen in that light. What is progressive about what that person is doing? And then ultimately, where does Buddhi Yoga lead you to? It leads you to a state of love, of bhakti, a state where you can actually give fully to the beloved.
What's the difference between jnana and buddhi?
Jnana means knowledge. Buddhi means realized knowledge, wisdom, like you could say the fruit of knowledge. What's that? Divya Gyan, ultimately, yeah, divine knowledge. But all knowledge is meant to lead to some type of true wisdom. Huh?
What intelligence in it? No, two different things.
What about intelligence? Buddhi.
Buddhi is intelligence.
Buddhi is often translated also as intelligence.
Okay. Because I was just trying to, because you said
No, it's
wisdom. What the wisdom comes from? Must comes from.
Yeah, it's a very important point. It's also very interesting because in a strange way, English has by far the most words of any language in the world. Like, it's not even close.
Yeah.
So because it's pulling from so many places, it has like these ways of expressing things. Now, there are certain words in Sanskrit where there's way more words for it than there are in English. But Buddhi has these very, English actually has a lot of different ways of expressing very fine distinctions. that are not necessarily so clear. So sometimes buddhi in the context is used as intelligence, but in the context of yoga, it means the fruit of the pursuit of any type of wisdom, right? It means you actually get it.
What's beneficial?
Right.
What is ultimately beneficial for the person?
Yeah, and wisdom ultimately means the proper relationship with reality.
Right.
You know, when it comes to yoga, because yoga is meaning linking or relationship. But in another context, buddhi is also called intelligence, and that's when we're talking about the mind, etc. Yeah. Okay. Everyone get that? Okay, fantastic. All right. Then 40, very helpful verse. Neha bhikrama nashosti pratavayo na vidyate svalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Jagaranga Prabhu, you want to read 40? How you doing, brother? All right.
On the path, there can be no loss and no harm. The slightest practice of such a spiritual ideal saves one from the greatest fear. Mahabhaya, the greatest fear, is generally considered to be the fear of repeated birth and death in this world. But Mahabhaya also refers to Sayuja Mukti, the liberation of merging into the impersonal, non-differentiated consciousness of the Brahmaloka, Viraja, or the kind of impersonal samadhi. Renunciation alone leads to Sayuja Mukti, the cessation
means the end
of birth and death, but not to a life in the positive plane. It takes one to the permanent burial in Brahmaloka. The demon of mukti will devour one whole cell, and therefore it is even more dangerous than this ordinary life of action and reaction. Mukti means a strike in the organic system, so it must be avoided. For example, to either ignore duties in a factory or to declare a strike by cessation of duties are both abnormal. Bhukti, exploitation, and mukti, renunciation, are both fearsome ghosts. Therefore, here, Mahabhaya means the great apprehension of falling prey to both the ghost of exploitation, leading to birth and death, as well as the ghost of committing suicide by merging into the impersonalism of incarceration in Brahmaloka. Fear of both Bhoga Bhumi, the land of exploitation, and Tyaga Bhumi, the plane of renunciation. It is stated in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Bhukti Mukti Spriha Yavat Pishchi Shride Vartate Tavad Bhakti Sukha Sastra Katam Abhyodhayo Bhavet. The ecstasy of devotion to Krishna will never appear in the heart that is haunted by the ghosts of exploitation and renunciation.
Then the next one, Anya Bhilashita Shunya.
Anya Bilashita Shunyang Jnana Karmadi Anritam Anukalyena Krishnanushilanang Bhaktir Uttama. The highest devotion is that which is cultivated for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord Krishna, with no desire except to serve him, and divested of all external attempts such as worldly action, knowledge in search of the impersonal absolute, or the meditational attempt to become one with God. Only the Supreme Lord is abhaya, beyond apprehension. Therefore, nothing but participation in his service can free one from the ghosts of exploitation and renunciation. Bhukti and mukti. If we subtract bhukti and mukti, then only positive bhakti, devotion, is the remainder. Therefore, without devotion, everything is Mahabhaya. Very danger.
Very danger. Okay, this is probably one of the most important concepts in life. It's not maybe so easy to understand. And as we become more and more familiar with it, it becomes more and more clear. But what's very clear from the writings of Rupa Goswami is that there's only two diseases of consciousness. Remember, we're just consciousness. And we're surfing a conscious world. So how does consciousness get captured? Consciousness is captured by bhakti, which means an exploitation consciousness. It means I look at the world around me and I got demands. Okay? The world needs to do what I want. It needs to give me what I want. People need to give me what I want. I value people according to whether or not they give me what I want. You know what I mean? All these kinds of things. That's all bhakti consciousness. That's exploitation. And then you can say that's kind of the default in this world. But generally what happens from a life of exploitation is suffering. You get karma. Why? Because your intention is to exploit others. And then you get hurt back, right? So when one experiences the negative side of the world, then the other ghost of consciousness attacks us, which is mukti, which is, I got to get out of here. This place sucks, actually. Right? How do I stop? I want to stop. I want off the train. Right? And that's another end of the pendulum. So this kind of pendulum of like bhakti, yeah, all right, the world is mine, baby. Bow. Oh, I don't like it anymore. You know, yeah, like whatever. Like that's all just mukti, bhakti consciousness, right? And the proper situation of the soul is full participation without attachment in devotion. That's bhakti. Okay, not I want everything, everybody needs to do what I want. Bhakti, not I'm out of here, I quit. How do I turn my consciousness off? Which is essentially mukti. How do I destroy my individuated consciousness and destroy all the variety and diversity that I find myself surrounded in? Because that's actually the cause of my suffering, right? Both of those things are broken. But what's wonderful, I love that at the end of that, he's saying, if you can get rid of bhakti and mukti, the only thing that's left in you is this wonderful, loving spirit that's ready for anything, ready for any adventure. And that's life. That's real bhakti. So, you know, Krishna's saying, this path, what's the path? He just laid something out to Arjuna. Can you actually participate in this thing in front of you without any attachment? That's the path he's talking about. If you can do that, you'll never lose and you'll never be afraid. If you can just practice this slightly, you're going to come into a plane of life that is fearless. Jaya. Any question about that? Okay, I mean, this is like this super fundamental conscious point that's at the basis of an authentic spiritual life. Okay, then a really nice piece of advice. 41. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana bahushakha hyanantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. Or Divya.
It's so funny, my book says 4.
Oh.
Without the 1. O descendant of the Kuru dynasty, resolute intelligence dedicated to me is one-pointed. I am its only objective, but irresolute intelligence is splayed by endless desires for material, mundane enjoyment.
Oh, thank you, bro. Thank you.
So that's it.
Okay, so this is a very simple point, but it's actually a crucial point.
Yes.
Vyavasayatmika. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. Buddhi, again, in this case, is intelligence, focus. Vyavasayatmika buddhi, another word to translate that is focus. And then focus what? Ekeha. Ekeha means on one thing. You will never be able to, and this is true just in life, you will never be able to do anything unless you focus on one thing. You just can't do anything without focusing on it, actually. So that's just a fundamental piece of advice. But Krishna here is saying, you have to make this ideal the focus. You know, we generally have like multiple, you could say, levels of stuff that we're doing. And sometimes it's like, okay, you're cooking and it's like you really need to focus on the, thing you're cutting, or you're going to cut your thumb off or something. You know what I mean? Like you have to focus on anything you're doing. But in life, if you don't have a primary objective, a primary goal, a primary thing that you can, that you find to be the real thing that you're nurturing and shooting for in life, you can't actually navigate or operate. Like, how do you make decisions? How do you prioritize? It's almost impossible. So you have a million things getting splayed out, right? It's like really hard. You have to have a hierarchy that you're prioritizing around. Otherwise, it's just like you just end up being very reactive and just getting pushed around and blown around, and you get, as the word here that's translated is splayed. Okay, Bahu Shakha means many. Shakha means branches. It means your mind's gonna go like and have like a million branches in it. And you're gonna be like, hey, what'd you do today? I have no idea. What did I do today? Right? Because you're not like operating according to like this is my right. So this ideal, if you could place sort of at the top of your hierarchy of things, and make it the focus even while you're doing the other things, because this is actually a conscious focus, right? This is a conscious focus. So you can be doing other things and still have this as the focus. That's what Krishna's advocating. But it's really useful for anything. Literally, you can't do anything unless you're focusing on the one thing that you're doing.
Also, like, when we put a lot of energy into odd things, various things, without intention, our energy is also splayed. That we can't have enough energy to facilitate all these things. And we get lost in the sauce, if you know what I mean. Like,
Lost in the sauce.
We're going here, over there, over here, and there's no path that seems genuine. And all of our behavior and actions, they don't really produce solid results, and we're feeling like, oh, so much unsatisfaction, so much disturbance by not being able to achieve anything. And I kind of like think about it as like a pond, and how many rocks we're throwing into it, and all the ripples of our actions become muddled. We don't know what any outcome is going to come. We become very lost and confused on why we're at where we're at, when we are like engaging in so many things like unconsciously or unintentionally.
Yeah, because in the end here, this is actually an assertion of your fundamental self. We have a soul, and that soul has its own. The soul ultimately can dominate the body, or the soul can be dominated by the body. And when the soul is dominated by the body and the mind, you get splayed. You're completely reactive, right? But the soul actually has the ability to just say, hey, guys, this is what we're doing. Sometimes it's like there's a picture in Prabhupada's Gita, but the description is actually given in the Gita here, that the soul is the person in the back of the chariot. The mind has the reins of the senses. But the person in the back of the chariot is the one who's getting driven around. He's the guy. He's the guy in the back of the taxi cab. There's a driver, and there's an engine. But the guy in the back is supposed to be telling the thing where to go, right? Or it's the same thing in the chariot, right? The chariot has 5 horses. The 5 horses are the 5 senses: the eyes, the ears, the nose, the the mouth, the touch, and eyes, ears, nose. Is that 5?
Yeah.
I'm missing one.
Mind,
The ears.
ear.
Wait, eyes, ears, nose, mouth. That's 4, 5. Yes, touch. Okay, 5 senses. Sorry. Okay, so the 5 senses, when they're not being controlled by the guy in the back, they're just running wherever they want, right? Or else the mind, which is just kind of going, let's go this way, guys. Let's go that way. Yay. Right? Like the guy in the back's got to be telling the thing where to go. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. So in the end, it's really like this empowering thing to be able to set a priority for the system. It's like, guys, this is what we're doing, all right? Everybody on board? You're not on board? Okay, well, we're doing it anyway. We just gotta you have to start having that internal dialogue with your mind. Because, Krishna goes way more into this, which is, in my mind, one of the most valuable parts of the Gita, where he's telling you exactly how to control your mind. What is the actual, he has this verse that he says, if someone's mind is under control, then their mind is their best friend. If the mind is controlling them, then the mind is their worst enemy. So, who's going to impose the priority? It has to be your deepest self, your most deepest wisdom. And sometimes that's a thing in motion. But I think a great way of putting it is, you have to find the most fine ideal that you know of at this moment and make your life around that. Now, you might receive revelation of an even finer ideal, but then you have to make your life around that. And an honest, heroic, brave life is to really think, what is the best possible thing I can think of, and make your life around that. And that's Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. Okay. (42, 43, 44). Yam imam pushpitam vacham pravadantyavi paschitaha vedavada rata partha nanyad astiti vadinaha kamatmana svargapara janma karma phala pradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaishwarya gatim prati bhogaishwarya prasaktanam taya pahrita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhau na vidhiyate. All right, Inakshi.
Preto Aparta, unwise person, not knowing that the chief direction of the Vedas is the attainment of the supreme truth, are found of interpreting the fleetingly and enchanting words of the karma kanda. I will release to someone else because I just have my vision is just starting to, it's dark.
Okay. O Partha, unwise persons, not knowing that the chief directive of the Vedas is the attainment of the supreme truth, are fond of interpreting the fleeting enchanting words of the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas as ultimate. Their hearts are filled with desires, and their goal is heaven. They advocate for the many sacrifices and rituals that yield wealth, worldly pleasures, and high birth. Thus attached to enjoyment and opulence, deluded by these flowery words of the Vedas, they do not attain the resolve to dedicate themselves to the Supreme Lord.
Okay, so Krishna just got done saying you need to focus on something. And now he's saying, hey, a lot of people, they just focus on trying to get some good stuff in life, basically. And there's all kinds of ways, increasingly subtle ways to do that, or increasingly gross ways to do that. And this time he's talking about a subtle way, which is, using these Vedic rituals and sacrifice and all things. But ultimately it's just all about trying to exploit reality and have a some pleasures and possessions in life, right? So he's basically saying, yeah, some people use their focus to do that.
To be in the relative world.
Right, to be in the relative world. Traigunya Vishaya Veda 45. Nidvan Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna Nidvandvo Nityasatvastho Niryoga Kshema Atmavan Yavan Artha Udapane Sarvata Sampluto Dake Tavan Sarveshu Vedeshu Brahmanasya Vijanataha. Do you want to read Haridev or?
O Arjun, the Vedas deal with the three modes of material nature. By accommodating fruitive action and liberation as an allowance and incentive for persons who are ignorant of the true objective of the Vedas. But you, Arjun, give up duality and all pursuits for gain and preservation. Stand ever in the plane of truth, and by the yoga of wisdom transcend the modes of nature. The objective of the Vedas is transcendental. Without fruitive action or liberation, O Arjun, follow the transcendental path of devotion to the Lord as taught by the Vedas. Mm-hmm. As all the purposes served by several ponds can be served better by a large lake, similarly, the fruits of worshipping the various gods by their respective Vedic prayers are surpassed by serving me. The knower of Brahman, who thus knows the purport of the Vedas, fulfills all life's objectives.
Okay, so pretty clear. Krishna's advocating for something high. It's not necessarily because the Vedas, they're divine scriptures, but so much of the Veda is really just, hey guys, you want to have a good life? Do these things, live it like this. Here's how you get stuff. Here's how you preserve stuff. Here's how you preserve your life. Here's how you, there's so many advices on just having what people would call a prosperous life. And that's okay. But what Krishna is saying, for you, Arjuna, I want you to give up duality, nirdvandva. Right? That's a high standard.
Because people say, it says sometimes, do it for me, he says.
Yes. Well, Arjuna, what he's telling Arjuna is, you rise above this. You actually have the ability to rise above this. You can operate within this without attachment to either side of the duality. You can accommodate the whole duality is ultimately what that means. Because the soul ultimately has the ability through progression and faith to accommodate the infinite. But if you're still stuck on one side of duality, whatever it might be, you're never going to actually rise above it, right? You're never actually going to rise above it. You're always going to be in it and is scared of one side of it and desirous of another side of it, right? And that is a state of bondage, actually. And it's a state of endless fear. Because you're always afraid that one part that you don't want is going to happen, right? But what he's telling Arjuna is actually you can be above this. And do that for me. You know, there's a lot of worship of elemental gods within the Vedic society. And there's basically, I mean, it's true, right? Like if everything's consciousness, and ultimately there are personalities in charge of different aspects of the material nature. And you can worship those personalities and receive material benefits. It's just the truth. You can. But Krishna is saying, I am the source of them. Everything is satisfied by worshiping me. And what I'm telling you is, operate in full non-duality. Operate in full embracement of both sides of the spectrum. Right? So that's karma yoga, and it's going to be summarized in verse 47. I mean, if you go to India, or even if you go like around here, if you see like, if you go to an Indian restaurant or something, and you see some Sanskrit on the wall, it's almost certainly going to be this verse, which is verse 47. This verse is like, the foundation of a proper approach to life. Okay, verse 47. Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalahetur bhur ma te sangostva karmani yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate durena hyabaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddhao sharanam anvichha kripana phalahe tavaha. Your right is to your work, never to the fruits. Be neither motivated by the fruit of action, nor inclined to give up action. Okay, so this is what was said before, crystallized. This is like seriously, like, I mean, this is, Krishna gets done telling Arjuna, don't lament, you're a soul, right? And then says, this is how you need to act in life. I find this, I mean, when I first read the Gita, and it was after I had read a lot of philosophy, a lot of philosophy. And I was like, okay, I'm on page, 38. And like, what is like the rest of this about? Because that's like, what? Because how do you do that? Your mind just immediately goes like, oh, why am I doing anything? I'm doing like literally everything for the fruit. It's like, why am I studying? So I can get an A, right? It's like everything I'm doing it because I want some outcome, some type of fruit. Okay, your right is to your work, never to the fruits. Be neither motivated by the fruit of action, nor inclined to give up action. So you should fully act just as much as when you're completely motivated by the fruit, but don't be motivated by that. And never give up action. Fully contribute, fully participate without any demand. Jaya. Okay, that's karma yoga in a nutshell. The first yoga that the Gita goes over. Okay, 48. O Dhananjaya, give up the ego that you are the doer, and be equipoised in success and failure. Thus stand firm in the plane of yoga, and do your prescribed duties. Such a state of balance is indeed known as yoga. O Dhananjaya, fruit of action is far inferior to this yoga of wisdom. Those motivated by the fruits of their actions are misers. Therefore, seek refuge in the selfless wisdom of equanimity. Why would being motivated by the fruits of your action make you a miser? Yeah. That's a nice way of saying it. It means I'm not going to give anything unless I get something back, basically. It's an intense word to use, but it's basically, it is transactional. It's a really nice way of saying it, Jagranga, because you're basically saying, I'm going to give some action, and what I need back is some fruits. But can you just give your action? Can you just give your contribution and not be worried about what comes back? Then that contribution and the state of being is yoga. And then what about, this is going to be gone into way more in the scripture, but what about giving up the ego that you're the doer? I mean, that's a hard one. You know, I mean, you're reading this and you're going like, what do you mean I'm not the doer? Grip. I gripped. Well, did I not do that? Like, what does that even mean? Touch the red thing. Look, I'm doing it. Well, how am I not the doer? This is going to be gone into much more, but it's important to understand that you're part of a much larger system. And there's a sanction for everything that occurs within the system. Our ability even to control this body, sometimes it works really good, sometimes it doesn't. There's a larger picture of what's happening and what actually allows something to happen within infinite possibility. There's an interesting thing because to some extent we have some ability to like influence what is occurring, and I'm sure everybody's heard of The Secret. You guys have heard The Secret? Anyone? I mean, it's kind of a famous idea. People know it by many names, but it basically is this idea of if you want hard enough, what you want is going to come into existence, right? And you know, you might have an experience where you'll be like, you know what, I'm going to make 5 sales today. I'm making 5 sales. And then you're like, I made 5 sales. Coincidence? I think not. But there's an interesting thing about The Secret, which is nobody wants to get old, nobody wants to die. But everybody gets old and dies, including everybody who knows The Secret. So there's a larger system at play, and some understanding of that larger system has to enter into what you're doing. You're making an offering ultimately of intention. And there is a tremendous number of variables that are going into the system, and one outcome is outputting. So, you know, many desires, many people, many situations. Somebody who's on the football, game, somebody loses, somebody wins. Right? Everybody wants to win, but it doesn't happen for everybody, right? There's a larger sanction, and you have to find the Lord behind that. You have to find your relationship with the Lord behind that. So we are not fully the doer. We are a contributor to an action. And that's a tough pill to swallow, but it has to get at least taste it a little bit and see if it has some truth in it.
What's coming to my mind is like when you're cooking, you didn't make all these ingredients
Oh, that's a nice thought. Yeah.
But still, you're participating in the process of the offering or the cooking, but you're not the source of the ingredients.
Yeah.
Or the source of really anything, really. But
Yeah.
you get to participate, but it's not like I made all that.
Right. Yeah, and that's a good perspective to understand that. It's like, I literally don't understand how my hand works. Now, there is something where I go, hand, work, but it's kind of like, what the heck is a hand? Like, why does, like, it's like you're in something that's much greater than you, actually. And it's composed not just of you. I mean, you're kind of the driver of this being, but there's all kinds of living beings inside this thing. Many, many, many levels of them, right? And there's so much that's keeping even what is in existence perpetuated into existence. It's like one of the things with the split experiment. You guys are familiar with that, with quantum physics? Anyways, the outcome of it as a principle is that the observer is what makes the potential, the wave of potential, become a particle.
Like Schrodinger's cat?
Schrodinger's cat is another principle, which is because that's the thing that occurred to Schrodinger, which is like the first principle is like, wow, this wave of potential doesn't even turn into a particle until it's observed. So, and then the second thing is like, okay, well, if the cat's in the box and nobody's seeing it, does the cat exist? Right? It's like, and that's becomes this thing of like, wait, so then what actually happens? It only things that I see happen? Well, no, but that's another name for supersoul, Paramatma. Paramatma is the observer, literally what it's called in the Vedas. That means there's a divine observer of everything that's in existence, making it into existence. So, you even existing is not necessarily something that you're fully understanding. What is making up? Like, if you think of, okay, like they're doing the split experiment with light, but if you think about every single particle that like makes up your fingerprint, particle meaning an atom, okay? Like every atom that makes up your fingernail is like a thing that needs to like exist constantly, right? It's perpetuating its existence constantly instead of being a wave of potential. Dude, when two atoms exist in a state where they complement each other and they perpetuate that existence, that's like a synchronicity. Jaya Mahaprabhu. The number of synchronicities that need to occur for your fingernail to exist second after second is like impossible. Okay, it's incalculable the number of atomic synchronicities that are happening for my fingernail to exist. Okay, and it's just like continuing to exist, like second after second after second. It's like, I don't know how. Yeah.
Or a thought. So, Schrodinger's cat, perception of the particle is like finite, and what you're saying is like the Lord's infinite observing is like, how to articulate this in my brain?
I mean, these are like, you could say these are the biggest ideas in the world right now. So don't feel, just, try to express what you can express, because nobody can express it really well. You know what I mean? You have got something in you that you kind of want to try and say, so you can work your way around to try and say it. It's not easy.
Mm. So observing the particle is in itself what makes it happen. And then also on an infinite scale, that is what's going on with the Lord.
With existence.
With existence, with observing. Because, I don't know. Maybe I'll end there, but... it's like, I was thinking, okay, so we're observing.
Later in the
we're
Gita,
seeing.
Krishna says something amazing.
Yeah.
Because he talks about this concept. There's kshetra and kshetragya. The field and the knower of the field. Okay? So the field is the world we find ourselves in. But there's a conscious observer of that field, and that's called kshetragya. So there's kshetra, which is the field of that we can perceive, right? The field of our perception and the field that we interact with. That's kshetra. Then kshetragya is the observer, the soul, that's actually aware of this field and the interaction with it. Okay? But Krishna says something very important to Arjuna. He says, you know your field, Arjuna, and I know all fields. That's a way of thinking about it. We each have a field, we each have a perspective, we each have a little world that we're interacting with. And the perception of that world. And that's the field that we're interacting with, each of us, right? But there's an observer that sees all fields. My perspective, your perspective, and the perspective of things that we may or may not even know that exists.
Again, same feeling as Jaguranga. I don't know if what I'm going to say is going to be stupid or what, but so if we see a little ant or a little insect somewhere, or if we perceive something in a forest that wasn't perceived before, does it mean that Paramatma, that divine consciousness, is perceiving that through us? Because he is perceiving all fields.
Not necessarily through us. He's perceiving what we perceive, but he may be perceiving that ant from literally uncountable perspectives, of which ours is one. Right? Think about a sunset. Like, I'm on the top of the mountain looking at the sunset. You're on the shore of Salt Lake looking at the same sunset. It's the same sunset. It's a completely different sunset. But the Lord is perceiving every amazing viewpoint of that sunset at every instant as the sunset goes down. It's all infinite joy and beauty. All. That's the ultimate conclusion.
So, is this observer considered like a singular entity from a singular point observing it all? Or is it, because I am having a hard time wrapping my head around that, like God being a singular, being a person, you know, and so I'm wondering if that's how it's talked about or considered, or if it's kind of like this collective of the consciousness. So like what you were saying with every viewpoint of the sunset, sunset is the like truth of just what it is, and then the observer is every single collective viewpoint of that sunset.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to give a little bit of a detailed answer, because what we call God in the Vedic understanding has three dimensions. Okay, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Okay, so Brahman means the divine energy, everything as one thing. Okay, the unity of everything as one thing. That's called Brahman. Okay, Paramatma means divinity in every tiniest thing that exists. So Paramatma means the supreme soul. Whatever exists is being perpetuated and lived through by the Supreme Soul, maybe. So that's called Paramatma. Atma means soul. Paramatma means Supreme Soul. So we are also always with Paramatma, our soul. There's no soul in existence that isn't also with Paramatma. So we're simultaneously individual and with God. Okay? So that's Paramatma. But the totality of reality, that Supreme Soul also has personality. Personality doesn't come from non-personality. Personality comes from personality. Personality is a thing, it's real. And the infinite has a personality. That's called Bhagavan. That's God. So Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan are all God. Okay? That's different aspects of God. But the personality of God is who is in relationship with the individual souls. Right? So different levels of God can be realized by different practices. Brahman realization is realized by coming out of the material conception. Paramatma realization is the peak of yoga. The true yogis who follow like Hatha Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, etc., when they go to the highest stage of yoga, you realize Paramatma. You see divinity within everything, including yourself. But Bhagavan is Krishna, reality personified. And Bhagavan is who the soul enters into relationship in love. So in Bhakti Yoga, you're in relationship with Bhagavan. You're in relationship with the personality of Godhead. So it's funny because it's very common that we can consider God as like this thing that's almost unimaginable. But to consider that God can be a person if he wants to be, that's very difficult for us to conceive. But it is true because he is the unlimited. Right? Why can't he be? Right. He likes love. And love is an exchange. You know? So that realization of God as a person is actually very rare. Krishna himself says that in the Gita. He said, out of many perfected yogis, one will know me. As Krishna Shyama Sundar means the beautiful dark Lord. Right? One will know me. Like dark Shyama means like, because Krishna's hue is said to be like a dark rain cloud, like this bluish hue. So one of his names is Shyama Sundar. He said, one will know me as Krishna. And then out of many who know me, one will have love for me. So it's a very, very rare thing to know God in his personal form. But he is all three of those. So that's why Krishna's saying, like, you know one field, I know all fields. That means through Paramatma. Right? Like you're going to know every single part of creation. There's nothing that can exist without God, because God is the root of all existence. Right? So God is in one sense everything, because nothing can exist without God, including us. Right? There's one source of existence. There's one perpetuator of existence. There's one basis of everything, and that is divinity. So Mahaprabhu's conception is achintya bheda bheda tattva. Means like we're actually simultaneously one with God and distinct from God. And that is a thing that cannot be conceived by the intellect. It has to be realized. So achintya bheda bheda tattva is like the actual position. Yeah. Should I throw it to you? Okay. Let's let those sit for a little bit. Okay, so I think we read 49. Okay, so that personality of Godhead who is speaking this Gita. Okay, that personality of Godhead is speaking this Gita, and he's telling Arjuna, who's a free soul, how to start to interact with reality in a way that is in full connection and fearless. And the biggest thing to actually start to move into true relationship and not be completely consumed by the world that we find ourselves surrounded by is to stop becoming attached to outcomes. Okay? So that's the point that we're at right now. Again, this is a super high bar, and this is the beginning of Gita. Okay, should we read a couple more? We have got like a couple minutes till 8 o'clock. Okay, let's read 50, 51, 52. Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita duskrite tasmad yogaya yujyasva yoga karmasu kaushalam karmajam buddhi yukta hi phalam tyaktva manishinaha janma bandha vinirmukta padam gacchantyanāmayam yada te moha kalilam buddhir vyatitarishyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha.
The wise person abstains. The wise person abstains from both good and bad actions in this world, engaged thus in yoga, as yoga is the art of all works. The wise are enlightened by giving up the fruits of their actions, and thus attaining liberation from the bondage of birth. They reach the plane beyond all suffering. When your intelligence fully emerges from the dense forest of illusion, you will be indifferent to all that has been heard or is yet to be heard.
Yeah. Okay. Shruti vipratipannate yada sthasyati nischala samadha vachala buddhis tata yogam avapsyasi. Arjuna uvacha sthita pragyasya ka bhasha samadhi sthasya keshava sthita dhi kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim. Shri Bhagavan uvacha prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmanyevatmana tushtha sthita pragyastadochyate.
You shall attain perfect yoga or pure devotion when your intelligence, undisturbed by the apparent contradictions of the Vedas, abides in the Lord. Arjuna said, O Keshava, what are the characteristics of the person of firmly established wisdom, who is fully absorbed in consciousness of the supreme samadhi? How does such a man of steady mind speak, be, and act in this world?
Pretty good question.
Let's find out. The Supreme Lord said, O Partha, one who rejects all desires that enter the mind and remains self-satisfied within is known as a person whose wisdom is firmly established.
Okay, we actually have to read a few more of these. These are great. Okay, dukkeshvanudvignamana sukheshu vigata spriha vitaraga bhaya krodha stitadhir munir uchate yas sarvatrani visnehas tat prapya subhashubham nabhinandati na dveshti tasya pragya pratishtita yada sangharate chayam kurmongani vasarvashaha indriyan indriyarthebhyas tasya pragya pratishtita. All right, JG.
One who is undisturbed by sorrow, whose hankering for pleasure has gone, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is known as a silent sage of steady mind. One who is not attached to anything in this world, who neither enjoys nor resents auspiciousness or inauspiciousness. His wisdom is firmly established. When one's senses are controlled and totally withdrawn from their objects, like the limbs of a tortoise withdrawn in its shell, his wisdom is firmly established. I'm thinking of Mahaprabhu.
Yeah.
The embodied being may renounce the sense.
We didn't read that one yet.
Oh, we didn't?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
Okay, so just to call something out on 56, Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha, which is on the second line there. This is the first time mentioned in the Gita, but it is not the last. This is mentioned over and over and over and over again. And it's very important to sort of start to grasp this within ourselves. Vitaraga means attachment. Bhaya means fear. Krodha means anger. These three things always go together. When you're attached to something, you're going to be fearful and you're going to be angry. Just what happens. Why? When you're attached to an outcome, you're being afraid that it's not going to happen, or you're going to be afraid that something that you're attached to not happening will happen. When you really, really, really want something, which is true attachment, and it doesn't turn out how you want, you become angry. There's only one source of anger, Krishna later says in Gita, and it's desire. So this Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha, man, these are like three things that live together in our mind, and they're very powerful. They absolutely dominate us. So when Krishna's saying, that person who's free from that, he has a steady mind. He's a silent sage of steady mind. Well, are we close? 72. We have 10 more verses. Maybe we should just finish. Oh, no, at this point. No. I'm saying we can finish the chapter. We have 10 more verses basically in the chapter, so we can go fast. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matparaha vashehi yasyendriyani tasya pragya pratishtita. Maybe go ahead, Haridev, you can just read 59, 60, 61.
Okay. Either one, I'm totally chilling. The embodied being may renounce the sense objects, but the taste for them remains. But that too vanishes for the man of wisdom, by his vision of the Supreme. And yet, O son of Kunti, the turbulent senses can forcibly plunder the mind of even the wise person striving for liberation. Devoted to me, the bhakti yogi brings his senses under proper control. Firmly established is the wisdom of the one whose senses are controlled.
Oof.
Like controlling the wind.
There's a very sweet part coming up in chapter 6 where Krishna tells Arjuna to control his mind, and he's like, Jaya Mahaprabhu. He tells Arjuna to control his senses, and Arjuna's like, ooh, this sounds tough. He goes, well, actually your mind is in control of your senses, so just control your mind and your senses be under control. And Arjuna's like, control my mind? That sounds really hard. Like, Anyways, it's a very great. I don't want to tell the whole part. Okay. 62. Dhyato vishayan pungsa sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodho bhijayate krodhat bhavati sangmoha sangmohat smriti vibhrama smriti bhrangshat buddhi nasho buddhi nashat pranashyati ragadvesha vimuktaistu vishayan indriyaischaran atma vashyir vidheyatma prasadam adhigacchati. But one whose thoughts, oh, go ahead, Hardev, 62.
But one whose thoughts dwell on the objects of the senses become attached to them. From attachment, desire is born, and from desire, anger arises. Anger gives rise to the delusion, and the power of delusion causes forgetfulness. Forgetfulness destroys intelligence, and when the intelligence is lost, one loses all. But the integrated person who can control his mind at will, and who, free from attraction and repulsion, accepts his worldly necessities through his controlled senses, attains tranquility.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's that raga dvesha is in the Sanskrit on 64. This is something also that gets mentioned many times in the Gita. Raga dvesha means attraction and repulsion, the two ragas, the two moods that we tend to interact with the world in. I like this, I don't like that.
Duality.
Okay, 65, 66, 67. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyo pajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthate nasti buddhirayuktasya nachayuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata shantir ashantasya kutas sukam indriyanam hi charatam yanmano nu vidhiyate tadasya harati pragyam vayudnavam ivam bhasi. When one attains a peaceful heart, all his sorrows are dispelled. The tranquil person's wisdom swiftly becomes steadfast. A person bereft of self-control can have neither wisdom nor meditation. Without meditation, there is no peace. And without peace, where is the hope for happiness? As a boat on the ocean is thrown off course by an unfavorable wind, similarly, the wisdom of a person lacking self-control is carried away by even one of the roaming senses that the mind might follow. Okay, 68, 69, 70. Tasmad yasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashaha indriyan indriyarthebhyas tasya pragya pratishtita yanisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagarti samyami yasyang jagrati bhutani sanisha pashyato munehi apuryamanam achala pratishtham samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashantim apnoti nakamakami. All right, Ananya.
Therefore, O subduer of the enemy, one whose senses are fully withdrawn from their objects is a person of firmly established wisdom. That which is day for the self-controlled sage is night for all beings, and that which is day for all beings is night for the sage who sees. The living beings absorbed in mundane life are asleep to the spiritual joy of the realized soul, who remains indifferent to their quest for the pleasures of the senses, devoid of spiritual joy. As the ocean remains full and unchanged, though many rivers and streams enter into it, The person of firmly established wisdom attains peace despite all desires entering him. But a person who nurtures desires cannot know peace.
Okay, that verse 69, super famous, Yani Shah Sarva Bhutana, means you're moving into a place where you're going to live in a different world than everybody else. What's day for the realized sage is night for all beings. And what's day for all beings is night for the sage who sees. Different perceptions of reality. Living in the same reality, totally different perception of life. And then Krishna desires, it's not that the person is not feeling all these things coming into them, desires and sense urges and all these kinds of things, but he's like the ocean. So many rivers are coming in, the ocean's undisturbed. Okay, 71, 72. Vihaya kaman yas sarvan pumangshcharati nishpriha nirmamo nirahankara sashantim adhigacchati esha brahmi stiti partha nainam prapya vimuhyati stitvasyam antakalebi brahma nirvanam richati.
Only a person who lives his life abandoning all desires, hankering, ego, and possessiveness can know real peace. O Partha, this is realization of the Absolute, attaining which a person is freed from the delusion of mundane existence. Even at the time of death, only a momentary attainment of this state leads one to the divine abode.
Okay, end of chapter 2. Iti Shri Mahabharate Shatasahasryang Sanghitayang Vyasikyam Bhishma Parvani Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishatsu Brahma Vidyayang Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Sangvade Sankhya Yoga Nama Vidyo Dhyayaha. End of chapter 2, the constitution of the soul. From the conversation of Shri Krishna and Arjuna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishad, the yoga scripture of transcendental knowledge in Bhishma Parva of Shri Mahabharata, the holy scripture revealed by Srila Vyasadeva in 100,000 verses.
So without complete detachment, there is no peace.
How are you doing on that, Anakshi?
Excuse me?
How are you doing on that?
I'm completely out of it. Completely, totally, honestly can say, out of it. Attachments of every step.
That's
But
beautiful.
The hope, Gauranga
Yeah,
Mahaprabhu
that's
is the
right.
hope.
That's exactly it.
Yes, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, hope for the most fallen, certified. Here.
Hope for the hopeless.
Certified.
Okay, Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishad Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai to all the beautiful souls reading Gita tonight. Ki Jai. Jai Go Pramanande Ki Go. Short Hari Hari.
Madhana What's the steps I crossed through
No, so you can do
the idea? To what? In this garden? What garden did you have? Yeah, I need to understand. I just cannot do it. I cannot do it. She already said I cannot. No, you can. You know, I cannot read.
All the nine devotees, Jaya.
My offering is completely not the temple standard. Completely not.